Welcome, everyone. So we're here this afternoon to talk about storytelling. Storytelling shapes our lives. It is our profession for some of us. Our attention spans at 8 seconds, however, these days. That has gone down from the 60s, 30 seconds, in the early 2000s, 12 to 15 seconds, and it's projected to be 5 to 6 seconds in the next decade. So what does that mean for storytelling? What does that mean for content consumption? I am here with two experts, joined by Camila Cabello, singer-songwriter, and Jane Millichip, the CEO of the BAFTAs, to discuss the importance of storytelling today. We'll start with Camila, and in doing my research, normally Camila is speaking or performing to 65 to 70% of the audience would be the age of 14 to 30 years old, and 70% would be females. So that is quite different than the demographic that we're looking out to here today. So I thought perhaps we might want to contextualize you a little bit for some of this audience if they don't have a 16-year-old daughter at home who might not be as familiar with the life and incredible story of Camila's success. And so when I think about Havana and it becoming, I guess, the most streamed song ever in 2018 for a female single artist, and debuting at #1 on the Billboard list. I mean, the list and awards that Camila has won, 136 different nominations and awards, I believe. But before all of that, there was a 6-year-old girl leaving Cuba, and I would love for us to contextualize to this audience what was in that girl's mind, and how did this story begin, and how did it get you to be the global storyteller that you are today? So,
okay, well, what was in that 6-year-old girl's mind specifically? I remember my mom telling me that we were going to go to Disney World because immigrant parents lie. That is how they survive. That is how we survive. And we had left to Miami. We were leaving Cuba. We had actually lived back and forth from Cuba and Mexico and had moved to Miami. And at that time, she was like, "We are going to Disney World." I don't think they knew exactly obviously how to explain to me that we were making a big move. And I think in the beginning, I probably just felt excited to go to Disney World, and then I was like, wait, when are we going to Disney World? Because we actually didn't go for about a year or two. But I think at first I was just like, hey, where are my cousins? Where's my kind of immediate family? And I was in school there. I kind of learned English through watching cartoons, through school. And my dad came over.
You got there and you didn't speak any English?
No, I didn't speak any English.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my dad came, I think it was like a year and a half later, and I remember I actually my way of making friends was always through music. Like I had my first CDs that I bought in the United States, the first time that I, turned on Disney Channel and watched, the Cheetah Girls or High School Musical. I made friends with the kids in my apartment complex. I remember like my first friend that I had made in the United States. Ironically, we were like, we are going to be in a girl group together. We were like 8 years old, and that was my first best friend. Every friend that I made, now looking at it, I made through music and connecting through music. So I think that's a testament to how art kind of brings people together and takes people who are maybe uncomfortable. It kind of facilitates connection.
So how did you get on X Factor at 13? 15.
So I didn't want to have a quinceañera, which is what Mexican people do on their 15th birthday. Mm-hmm. We have a really big party, and I probably did not have enough friends to have a big enough party. So I was like, instead of having a quinceañera, will you guys drive me to an X Factor audition? Do you guys know of like American Idol, X Factor, America's Got Talent?
Yeah.
That kind of stuff? Yeah. So I was a big fan of One Direction at that time, and I was obsessed with singing. One Direction, British, Britain's own. And I was obsessed with singing. That's like all I ever did. I didn't go to parties. I didn't really hang out a lot. I was always singing. I waited for my parents to leave and go to the grocery store, and I would be in our basement, and I would be singing, and that was what I loved to do. And so I remember there was a YouTube video where One Direction was giving tips for people to audition for American X Factor.
Okay.
And I don't really think I thought it through so much because my parents, I wasn't even the person that was in school always singing. I was very, very shy. But I was like, will you drive me to North Carolina where the audition is so I can audition for X Factor? And I think the instinct was a blurb of many things. I think it was like, I really wanted to meet One Direction, to be honest. And I think I just had this like 5 seconds of bravery moment where I was like, oh, this would be so cool. They were kind of from these small towns. I don't have any connections to anybody in the music industry. I was always singing, but I never thought it could be a reality for me.
But it was, and you got there, and then they were going to turn you away. Is that?
Yeah.
And how did you figure that out?
I groveled. I groveled for 3 days. I was in North Carolina, and they were like, hey, you're an alternate, which means you're not a sure slot for auditioning. There's a maybe 1% chance that you're going to get to audition. We don't want to disappoint you and your family. You guys should probably just go home. And I was like, so you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah.
So I stayed there, and I think that I remember like Simon Cowell walked backstage, and I was like crying, and I was like, please, sir, they won't let me audition. And he was like, what are you talking about? I don't even know this kid. That's so weird. But I think the producers saw how badly I wanted it, and they ended up letting me audition, which I think I really did learn from my parents and that kind of like immigrant mentality of just hustling and like, you know, not really taking a no is a flexible response.
Well, you've come a long way now to having 60 million followers, I think, online, and continuing to win so many awards. I had the privilege of seeing Camila a few nights ago perform, and I advise all of you to make time to go and see a concert. But moving on to Jane, so on the other end of the spectrum, we're focused on culture and excellence and long-form narratives and the opposite of what some of Gen Z wants.
Oh, I thought you were going to say at the other end of the spectrum, people who can't sing.
Oh, yeah, and maybe that too.
You'd be correct. Sorry, carry on.
No, absolutely. But Jane comes from 25 years of content creation.
Well, in fact, I produced Pop Idol in New Zealand.
You produced what?
Pop Idol in New Zealand.
Oh,
yes.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
So I know what
similar
it's like.
thing.
Yeah. There's a lot of jeopardy in those programs. Good storytelling.
Yes.
Sorry, carry on.
So
I keep
true.
interrupting you.
No, absolutely. So, when we think about the Gen Z audience that Camila has and the direction that storytelling is going into, maybe you can just provide us a little bit of your perspective on what that means for awards, for BAFTAs, and for the industry that you represent.
So BAFTA is more than an awards organisation. We represent film, games, and television. We're one of the few entities that does, and we're an arts charity. And our role as an arts charity is to cheerlead for the screen arts and cheerlead for storytelling, as well as level the playing field in the screen arts and provide opportunity where it doesn't exist, and ensure that the screen arts are as representative as possible of the full spectrum of society, and particularly those who are marginalised or come from underrepresented groups, so that they can come forward and tell their stories. And if they tell their stories, we, the public, are going to be a lot more engaged. It's a brilliant kind of circular economy. And
do people know that? Like when I hear of the BAFTAs and think of like the exclusive fancy
we're on a
parties
bit of a
and the
journey
awards.
because a lot of people don't realise we're a charity, an independent arts charity. But long may our awards be as famous as they are. We're a big bellwether for the Oscars now, and so it's really put us on the map. And we produce awards for games and television as well. But storytelling is really at the heart of everything we do, and for me, it's part of the human condition. It's the only way we can make sense of being a human is to tell stories. You know, from the songlines of Australia through to, TikTokers and 8 seconds. You can tell a great story in 8 seconds if you really try, but just make it resonate, make it count. Storytelling is in all of us, and it's in the weirdest places as well. And stories for impact, I think, are becoming increasingly.
Well, we were talking about that in terms of
Yeah.
for this audience who has a focus on investment opportunities and areas to watch. You were saying that this.
So storytelling can come in all forms, and just entertaining can be a really, really good thing. You know, we all need a bit of joy in our lives. But increasingly, we're seeing stories for impact. And what I mean by that is stories that make real world change. And there's some really interesting recent examples in the film industry. In 2018, Alfonso Cuarón's movie Roma, which won BAFTA and Oscar, was instrumental in bringing rights, proper social security rights to domestic workers in Mexico. Made a huge difference. The film Sing Sing in 2024, which is about a true story about a rehabilitation through arts program in Sing Sing, the maximum security prison in New York State. And that program, wherever it's been introduced in prisons, and that film, where it's being shown in prisons, is reducing recidivism, i.e. repeat offence, from 60% to 3%. And that's the kind of change you can make in storytelling. There's a brilliant filmmaker that not many people know who he is. He's not that famous, but he does some great work. Damon Gamo, Australian. He's a big environmentalist. He's just made a beautiful film with young kids. He took 8 young kids. It's called Future Council. Took eight young kids around Europe to try and get them to solve climate crisis. And he embedded these kids in big corporates. And it is the most beautiful film. And they are the most articulate and wonderful kids.
Wow.
And it's really joyful storytelling, even though it's tackling, there's a real thing at the moment, with kind of climate anxiety. Mm-hmm. And some of the world's biggest problems at the moment feel so big that we feel powerless. Mm-hmm. But when you apply a human story to it, you can find your way through the problem. Mm-hmm. And that's what Damon is doing with the types of films he's making. And so
is that engaging with the audience more? Is that a theme?
Hugely, yeah. He's got great audience pickup, and so this thing keeps catching on my collar. It's making a noise. Stories don't have to be like eating cardboard. They don't have to feel like homework, but they can make real life change. And there's a new kind of career for some people in the screen arts now called impact producer, where you will work with the storyteller, with the writer-director, early on in a story's development, so that you can get that film, game, or piece of television to the eyeballs that you want it to. And that might be a mass market, or you might want to try and change policy. And so I feel really optimistic about all forms of content storytelling.
So Camila,
even
when
long
I think
form.
about...
And kids can concentrate if they want to.
Yeah.
It's just that they're not always served up really great content. They can concentrate for hours if they really want to. Mm-hmm. You watch a kid playing a really great narrative game, they'll be there for 3.5 hours.
That's true.
There's nothing wrong with their
gaming,
span.
I think, is a different conversation.
There is nothing wrong
but
with
I think
their
that's what I'm getting at with this interactive component to the content that you're creating. And so you can work to create a story and tell it to the world, Camila, the way you want to, but also the way people interact with it and how they chop it up and reshare it with the world can be in a completely different context. Mm-hmm. So how do you think about that and do you have to be on guard with everything you say? Do you mind? Is it okay that people take your words and share them with the rest of the world in a different way and create further forms of your content?
Well, I think with songwriting, for example, or when it comes to when you say content, whether it's live shows or songs, I think that's one of the most beautiful parts of it. When my process is is at first just for me, or a song is just for me, or we're in the rehearsal space and it's just our team building a show, and then when it alchemizes with the audience, it's suddenly something completely different, and it's fun for me to be surprised. It's like a collaboration, between.
And do you have to change that? I know I saw you in Saudi last year, and you did a Middle Eastern version of Havana.
Yes.
And so do you try and engage with the people that you're performing for to make something feel special and unique for them?
I think that's actually one of the cool things about how we as humans kind of evolved with the times. Like, I think with the mediums of TikTok and social media now, you kind of have to be more spontaneous, more on your feet, because people have heard me sing Havana and perform Havana so many times. Like, if it was, 40, 50 years ago, I mean, it would have been different. Or, for example, when I'm doing my first show on a stop of the tour, before it was like every city was seeing it for the first time. Now, by the time I do the second show, all of my core fans have already seen it. So I do think it has evolved the way my team and I think about it, about how can we make it spontaneous every night? How can people not know, even if they've seen this show on the internet, how can they not know what's going to happen tonight? So I do think it kind of keeps you on your feet more, which is cool.
So you were here last year. I've seen you in the Middle East now a few times. And Jane, this is your first trip to Abu Dhabi, and then you're heading on to the Red Sea Film Festival in Jeddah. So what can we expect to see from BAFTAs in this part of the world? Or are you here to curiosity or business?
I'm really, as you said, GCC is new to me. BAFTA is formerly known as the British Academy of Film and Television Arts and Games, only that's not in our title. And we really are about global storytelling, though. So we are there to promote the interests of the practitioners and creatives in the arts field, particularly those from Britain. But for us, the cultural bridge between nations is really important. So many great stories have been told through co-production, and this is a first, step for me. It's about time I made this trip, and I'm really interested to meet as many people as I can and talk to you about your stories. You will have brilliant stories. Everything from Ahmed Ibn Majid onwards, the brilliant, was it 15th century cartographer and navigator from the Emirates, well known for being an incredible astronomical navigator, yet what he's known for is his stories. His maritime journals are what made him the man he was, and why the Portuguese followed him all over Africa. So there are great stories here, and I'd like to know them.
I think there are also many great stories that come out of the BAFTAs or live concerts, and I know you have been kind enough to share some of the funnier ones with me in preparation for this conversation. But I hopefully not the same experience happens on the red carpet in Jeddah, because I don't know how the fans would be treated the exact same way as sort of friendly British people. But perhaps you could share you could share with the audience the story of the red carpet protesters. So
the BAFTA Film Awards are the biggest event we do, and it's a really big moment in the awards calendar and in the film calendar, and we go just before the Oscars. So there's a lot of people from Hollywood there, and there's a lot of pressure on us to make it good. But live events, as I'm sure anybody who's involved in them here, you just can't control people. And one year recently, we had a protest from Stop Oil. They weren't protesting against BAFTA, but they wanted to get onto our red carpet to get on the news feeds. And they glued themselves to our red carpet, which is a bit unfortunate.
Glued?
Yes. Bearing in mind they were climate activists. Our red carpet is recycled until someone glues their hands to it, and then we have to make a new one. But anyway, moving on from that. So my team, we like to think we're very nice at BAFTA. So instead of removing them, we just put little barriers around them. Meanwhile, people like Camila came waltzing by.
Walking down the red carpet.
So we just had these little barriers on the red carpet, and we were giving them drinks and making sure they didn't dehydrate, and we were being very kind to them. And then once everybody was in the building and the public went and the police were starting to dissipate, then my team went back to them, and these guys were a bit deflated because they had no one to perform in front of anymore, because it's just an empty red carpet. But they were still stuck to the red carpet.
Oh my God.
So we cut we cut around their hands and then sent them off. And then the police turned up and said, "Where are the protesters?" And we said, "Well, you'll find them. They're walking toward the tube station, and they're the ones with carpet on their hands, glued to their hands." So, yeah.
That is some strong glue.
There'll always be something bananas that happens at the BAFTAs.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, live performance, and I guess you both shared a moment when someone's pants fell down standing at the podium, it sounds like. So hopefully that doesn't happen at the Milken Conference.
If any Star Wars fans are here, Mark Hamill, who is Luke Skywalker, we were thrilled to have him at the BAFTAs this year, and he was presenting the final award. And he'd been to New York a couple of weeks beforehand to have his suit remeasured, readjusted, and it was a little loose. And he came on stage, and thankfully he was behind a podium, and his trousers fell down. And he caught them mid-thigh. Meanwhile, I was texting my teams like, "You've got to edit this out of the show. This is just a poor guy." I would never have said this in public had I not seen him laughing about it on a talk show in the States. So it's okay to speak. But I think, well, you saw it, didn't you?
What was crazy about this moment is that I'm pretty sure nobody on TV saw it.
No, because
it was edited, because the podium was in front of him.
Yeah.
And the whole center, I feel like, did not see it because there was no, his pants fell down and there was no, ooh. It was completely silent. And me and my friend were just like, we were to the left, so I saw his pants fall all the way down. And I was like, anybody seeing this? Like, this man's pants have fallen down.
Demi Moore was sitting to the right of me, and she was on her knees laughing at him.
I was laughing so hard. I was just like, am I going
Thank goodness for technology and the ability to edit. And I think that brings us on to the next theme of AI and technology in storytelling. And obviously, in both of your industries, what is going to be disintermediated because of AI? What jobs are going to go away? Is this a tool? It seems 60% of the entertainment industry is now leveraging AI to write or to script things or to film things. And so is this something we're nervous about or excited about?
I feel kind of neutral about it. I don't think it's useful to be afraid of it because I don't think that you can stop it. I think it's going to, I think it's a tool just like anything else. And I feel like in music, for example, people were nervous about electronic drum programs. They were nervous about auto-tune. But I think it's just its own kind of thing. And I think if anything, I've seen a lot of musicians, at least I've seen a lot of musicians, and I feel this way myself. I think I'm craving more real musicians. If anything, I'm craving more analog things. I think the pendulum always kinds of swings in different ways.
I found it really interesting that you said you're on a digital detox right now and you've cut out everything.
Yeah.
But I asked if you're still watching movies, and you were like, of course. So it's interesting to see what the difference between different types of...
Well, because I feel like some things are, at the end of the day, I feel like humans pretty much, we still have the same biology that we did a long time ago. So, human touch, the sound of a drum beat, these things still calm our nervous system the way they did thousands of years ago. And I think there's things like, there's candy and then there's like substantive food. And I feel like novels, books, real conversations, sitting around and, playing guitar and jamming with friends, watching a film that makes you feel something. That's like real substance. And then there's other things that to me is like more shallow. Like to me, that's like social media and comparing myself to people.
Or building a brand. You need to do those things, but...
Yeah, but sometimes, but I feel like for me, my responsibility as an artist is to first like cultivate myself and then hopefully put something out that hopefully is substantive and isn't just candy, because I just find that just candy is good sometimes, but being on a diet of only candy makes me feel mentally unwell.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Jane, how do you see AI and technology impacting?
Well, it's a complex subject. Technology has always nudged the screen arts along because whether it's 3D or high definition, and technology often forces us to innovate, and that's a really, really good thing. The screen arts have been threatened many, many times, existential threats from technology that we're going to be replaced by the bots, and every time we innovate. And I think there are real challenges around copyright, and for artists, I think it's really, we really need to look at it. However, I hope that we will just get beyond the fear and see it as a tool. Yes, it will replace some functions in our ecosystem. And somebody spoke about that this morning. And we have to work with those people to, if they're young enough, retrain or look after them. They're part of our community, part of our society. But it is a tool. And I've seen AI scripts, and they're kind of, once I've seen them, they're okay. But as we were saying before, I think the unpredictability of the human brain is something we need to cherish in storytelling. But sometimes, if you can't get your character from A to C and you need the B, you can use AI to get you there, and you can edit it afterwards. But I think it's a tool that we should embrace. We need to ensure.
But when I look at clips, I can't tell if this was filmed and it took film crews and people to fly to British Columbia to film something, or if it's computer generated.
But you know what's so interesting?
To tell.
On our family group chat, my mom was like, told my 18-year-old sister, she's like, wow, look at this. My 18-year-old sister is like, Mama, that's AI. I can't I have to teach you how to know these things.
Oh, really?
So I think that the more...
Old.
No. I just mean like the more that because kids spend so much time online, I think they're so exposed to it that I honestly think your brain like your eye evolves to see the difference in these things. And
well, there's a story overnight from Sky News, which was I think it was from Pakistan. A former politician's sister was interviewed on Sky News last week. The interview was doctored and it was re-released.
Wow.
And then Sky News ended up in a very meta way covering the fake news story. But yeah, I mean, it was quite convincing. But I think we're more and more alive to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think you can. And also, it really teaches you to do your proper research. It's a bit like, how many school kids are told don't just rely on Wikipedia.
Yep.
Find primary source, use it as a bridge too. So, just double check.
So maybe tell us a little bit about the UK right now. In all of the other conversations I've had for the last few days, it's the number one place for millionaires in the world to move right now is the UAE. It used to be the US. Mm-hmm. The number one place they're coming from is the UK. I think there's probably a lot of people in this room that used to live in the UK that have now moved here, or have friends that have left the UK. And with all this negative information, tell us something positive, because it seems the film industry in the UK is actually one of the few things that it seems to be booming and growing.
Well, if you listen to all the dispatches at the moment, you'd think that we'd just gone back to the bog in UK. After inflicting the worst act of self-harm we did in 2016 by voting ourselves out of Europe, it has been a bit of a challenge. But I would say storytelling is in absolutely rude health in the UK. Mm-hmm. The creative industries and the GVA of creative industries are worth 125 billion. That's 50% increase on 2010. Wow. The creative industries are 6% of the economy. There are more US studios popping up all around Britain at the moment because US studios are coming to Britain because there's great craft and great skill there and great talent. And we've just got to really embrace that and just, it rains a lot, but we do have some sunshine. Mm-hmm. And I think, we'll get through. Europe is messy. We always have been messy. We always will be messy. But I think, I'm really optimistic about the screen industries, the skill-based,
and from an investment
pipeline.
Perspective, looking at opportunities. So you said stories for change. You see as a genre where people could invest around. Are there any other themes or areas that are of interest or worth noting to our audience?
High-end content has never been more expensive, but more impressive. So increasingly, the ecosystem of the entertainment business requires additional funding. We need external funding in order to refresh the kind of the financing of our content. And there was a wave of it in the 1990s, I think, with more VCs investing in production. it kind of went away a bit. I think we would welcome it back again. And look, you could be part of a story for change.
Okay, well, maybe to wrap it up, because I know we're almost done here. So if we were to leave a few key takeaways with the audience around the content creation, creating culture, and storytelling, is there any message that you would want to convey to your audience, to the people that you support through BAFTA, that you would want to share today?
Storytelling matters, representation matters, and stories can change the world. And by the way, if ever we invite you to present an award at BAFTA, just make sure your trouser elastic is nice and tight.
Okay,
I love
great.
that. I love that. Yeah, no, I think, yeah, I feel like what I would say to any young musician or young creator is tell your story with exactly the resources that you have now, whether that's, your garage band. It doesn't need to be some fancy studio with fancy equipment. Get creative, and be unabashedly you, because I feel like those are the best stories.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.